Hey guys, Dark Skeleton here, and today I'm going to be showing you how to draft Paladin inside of Goblins vs. Gnomes Arena. The reason we're doing Paladin, first off, we've already done Warlock. Secondly, if you want to compare Paladin to Shaman, Paladin is actually the class with the higher win percentage. You can, once again, go check your statistics out at arenamastery.com, see which classes fare better, which ones people are playing the most. Generally, people play what wins, both in Constructed and in Arena. For Arena mode, Paladins have the second highest win rate. Of course, you notice that all of these win rates are above 50%. Well, that's because the statistics that they get for this site are only submitted by people who are actually playing the game and uploading their data. And the average uploader is better than the average player. The average player probably doesn't even know about this site. Well, yeah, it's very cool. There's a lot of useful statistics. So back to the arena practice, we're going to go ahead and pick Paladin. Second highest win rate, very good class to pick. So right off the bat, we have Gadgetzan Auctioneer, Demolisher, Equality. Gadgetzan Auctioneer used to be better, but it got nerfed into the ground, as most people probably know by now. 6 mana for it, usually not worth it. I've seen one Miracle Rogue actually be still playing it and Constructed, and actually played it successfully. But other than that, not very good. Demolisher, it's never really been that great. It is a mech now, which is something, but it's not the kind of card you're going to be able to keep on the field, really get the value out of it. Usually it's just going to die because it has one attack. So we do have Equality, though, and Equality is a fairly decent card. It's amazing and constructed, but even in Arena mode, if you're summoning those 1/1 tokens and you're able to make big trades, or maybe you have slightly stronger minions, but you still want to make some trades, Equality can make it happen. Also, Equality Consecration, Equality Wild Pyromancer. If you get that combo, that's very staple Paladin. Second pick, Micro Machine. It's not so great for Arena just because it only has 2 HP. It does have the potential to become really strong, but I think usually it's just going to be a 2/2. It might end up being a 4/2, which is not bad, actually. Abusive Sergeant is good if you have cards that it can enable to make good trades. We don't have anything like that yet. Otherwise, it's kind of average. I mean, a 2/1 isn't actually all that strong for 1 mana. You'd kind of want like a Flame Imp or a Zombie Chow. Obviously, Flame Imp is a Warlock card. Stone Skin Gargoyle. It does have the theoretical potential to combo with something like Blessing of Might or Blessing of Kings and be pretty good in that way. But that's very dependent on having those buffs, and we don't have anything like that yet. So we are going to pick the safer play and go with Micro Machine. Abusive Sergeant is okay, but, I mean, when you compare those two, at least this has the potential to become really big, and it's always going to be at least a 2/2. So it's not too bad. It can be good, and it also has mech synergy. Third pick, Chillwind Yeti versus Force Tank Max. Ancient Brewmaster isn't out of the question, but we don't really have anything to combo it with. Chillwind Yeti, slightly better stat distribution. And the Force Tank Max is actually a decent mech unit. It's not too shabby in Arena mode. That Divine Shield for 7 damage, you can really trade that with something big if they can't remove the shield. But Chillwind Yeti is generally a very, very consistent card. I don't know what the late game's going to look like. I wouldn't blame you for taking a Force Tank, but I'm going to go with the Yeti. Okay, here we have Nerubian Egg, Wild Pyromancer, Bloodsail Corsair. Nerubian Egg is okay in Paladin if you actually have the buffs for it, or you can enable it with something like an Abusive Sergeant. If you can kill the egg with a Scarlet Purifier, but we have neither of those. And Wild Pyromancer, as I mentioned, combos with Equality. And if you can actually do the Equality Wild Pyromancer combo in Arena mode, that's just bloody crazy. You might as well be a mage that just got a Flame Strike. Happy days. Speaking of cards that combo with Equality, Consecration also works great with Wild Pyromancer if you want to deal with 3 damage AoE. Consecration, very rarely would you take anything else over this. Scarlet Crusader is good, Eye for an Eye is crap, but Consecration, it's like your Flame Strike as a mage, you basically always take it. Cult Master is actually pretty good if you want to make some trades, get some more card draw, persist into the late game. Versus an Ancient Brewmaster or Noble Sacrifice, that's not really going to cut it for Arena mode. Not too many real uses, it just blocks 1 attack. Ancient Brewmaster, on the other hand, is nice if you can actually bounce something back to your hand and reuse it. But we don't really have anything like that yet, and with all the 1/1 tokens that Paladin can make, you're going to want some card draw. Cult Master is pretty good for card draw, both in Constructed and I would argue in Arena too. So we'll take one. Here we have a bunch of rubbish. Explosive Sheep. In theory good, but how are you going to proc it? I think it's better in Mage, because Mages can just spend 2 more mana to make it explode immediately. Basically being like a Consecration that hits the whole field. But versus Blessing of Might is not really all that good of a card. It's very aggro-ish most cases, and can't really justify it for Arena, because it's just trying to do tempo board control and card efficiency. But I would say Explosive Sheep here. One thing you could do is, if you manage to proc Wild Pyromancer, which will AoE the field, and then burn the Explosive Sheep, then you could deal 3 damage to everything on the field, and that might be pretty good. So, we'll try out the Explosive Sheep. Okay, next card. Wow, they're giving us a lot of explosive stuff. Unstable Ghoul, if you were trying to stall, is not the worst thing in the world. Jungle Panther is okay. Its problem is that it only has 2 HP. Very rarely will actually be able to kill something without dying itself, so there are better 3-drops out there. Anti-Keelbot, if you want to slow down the game, heal yourself up, prevent yourself from dying, it's a good card. People use it a lot of times in Constructed. The question is, do you take it for Arena mode? When you compare that to Unstable Ghoul, Unstable Ghoul is also a card that you really don't take in Arena generally. It's okay in Constructed because it's like, yeah, you'll shut down early aggression. But Arena mode really isn't all about early aggression. Most times, the best you can expect to get from it is a 1-for-1, which is okay. But the Jungle Panther does allow you to have the stealth and choose your battles, so you get to pick what happens with the Panther. And for that reason, I will take the Panther. Okay, next up we have a pretty good choice. Acidic Swamp Ooze is very good against Paladins. Cough cough, true silver champion. Ogre Brute is also very good because of its stat value. You really don't mind too much what the Ogre Brute's going to hit, although hitting what you want is ideal. It's not necessary, because sooner or later those 4/4 stats are going to come into play. They're either going to remove it, or it's eventually going to hit something. Now, do you go Ogre Brute or do you go Acidic Swamp Ooze? That's a tough one. They're both very good. I think, for the sake of consistency, Ogre Brute's 50% chance to miss can screw you over, and Acidic Swamp Ooze is consistently going to be a 3/2, but is also very good against other Paladins. Or any class that uses weapons, really. So we will take one Acidic Swamp Ooze. Plus 2-drops are important. Now, this is interesting. Quartermaster. If we had Muster for Battle, I'm sure you know by now that every Paladin ever plays Muster for Battle Quartermaster. The question is, do you try to draft that in Arena mode? And I think that's really pushing it. If you get Alpha to Quartermaster first, though, But then again, Enhancer Mechano is actually quite consistent. As long as you have board control, Enhancer Mechano is really good. Getting those Wind Furies, Taunts, Divine Shields, all that shit is good. I can't guarantee that I'm going to be able to draft a Muster for Battle, plus the stats in Quartermaster are weak. Then again, to be fair, the stats in Enhancer Mechano are weak as well. You don't generally take the Molten Giant because most times people are going to kill your board well before they actually bring you down to like 10 health. And then at that point, are you really going to have like the Taunt Givers you need to make Molten Giant work? It's more of a constructed card, not really Arena mode. But Enhancer Mechano, if you have board control, it's excellent, so we'll take one. Next up, Undertaker. It sounds good in theory until you realize that there aren't that many Death Rattle minions you can just take into your deck. It's not like Constructed where you can just take every Death Rattle minion in the game and make Undertaker a beast. A lot of times it's just going to be 1/2, and that's actually awful. Holy Light. Spending a card just to heal yourself. You could justify it in Constructed, but Arena, not so much. So we'll take a 3/2 Acidic Swamp Ooze. That's a great pick. I don't really want too many more Acidic Swamp Oozes, unless we're just taking it for the stat value, though. So those Oozes will be really good against Paladins, that said. Here we can go with the Chillwind Yeti, because Frostwolf Grunt is awful. It only has 2 HP, it only has 2 attack. Bad stat lineup for a 2-drop. Taunt is okay, but it's just gonna die. Razorfin Hunter, in theory has good stat lineup, or stat value in total, but when you distribute it like that, you can usually just take 2 bigger things and kill it off easier, or 1 big 3-drop and a Fire Blast, and that's all gone. But 2 Yeti is a little bit harder to deal with, especially for priests, because they're 4 attack, obviously. We'll take a Yeti. Okay, here, Nightblade sucks. You don't want to deal 3 damage to the enemy hero that badly. 4/4 stats for 5 mana, not worth it. 1/1 stats for 1 mana makes Young Dragon Hawk awful. No one really ever tries that, unless you're Total Biscuit trying to make a Wind Fury deck. But Anti-Keelbot, on the other hand, can keep you alive, and they might actually get to the point where they're threatening lethal, and you do need the healing of the Anti-Keelbot. 3/3 stats, that considered, if you do get the heal, it's okay. Maybe average or slightly below average for Arena. I generally wouldn't want to take it, but the other 2 cards are that much worse. Here, Wolf Rider is not great. It's basically 3 damage removal for 3 mana. That can't go through taunts, I might add. Wisp, you don't need it. There's not some super crazy aggro BS you're going to be pulling off in this. You're not like a Savage War Druid. Wisp isn't worth it. Consecration, on the other hand, is amazing. We'll take another one. Boulderfist Ogre versus Lord of the Arena. You take stats over taunt. 7 stats, 7 health is really valuable. South Sea Deckhand. It is a Paladin, so if we had a weapon, it would be able to charge, but it's not worth it. Paladin's more controlling, especially with lineups like this. When you have Equality, Consecration, and Wild Pyromancer, you're pretty much set. So we want big stompy minions for the late game. Boulderfist Ogre, hands down. Okay, between these, Abusive Sergeant, I already explained. It's okay as an enabler. If you have a minion on the board and you want it to make a better trade, you can do that with Abusive Sergeant. It's not bad. Zoo does it all the time in Constructed. Tauren Warrior is bad because its stat lineup is pretty bad in general, and the Enrage plus 3 attack almost never is actually going to fly. So you're just basically paying 1 extra mana for a Amani Berserker, but it has Taunt, and the Taunt is not worth the extra mana. Silvermoon Guardian, on the other hand, is a average 4-drop. It's okay because it has Divine Shield, but aside from that, it's like it'll trade into 2 3-drop minions, but that's about it. Abusive Sergeant versus Silvermoon Guardian, though, I think I would go with the Silvermoon Guardian normally. We do have a lot of 4-drops. I think you still go with Silvermoon Guardian, though. Okay, second Equality is a real strong consideration. Actually, it's pretty much a guaranteed. Having this AoE board removal of Consecration while Pyromancer plus Equality is great. This is actually almost like a constructed deck in terms of the removal. If I can get a double Wild Pyromancer, then you are looking at the removal of a constructed Paladin deck, and that's pretty sick. Here we have, you can get a 4/4 for 4 mana, or you can get a 4/4 for 3 mana. Which do you think you pick? Yeah, you take the Brute. Spell damage? Not really needed. 2 Consecrations? Yeah, it helps that, but A, the Ogre has to live, and secondly, it has to be in your hand, so it's too situational. Plus 3/3 for 4/4 for 3 guaranteed. Here we have a bunch of crap. Noble Sacrifice is bad because basically it just soaks an attack. It's not the worst thing, but it's not good either. Light's Justice is okay in that you can bash a lot of 1-drop minions. Though people don't normally take super aggressive minions like Leper Gnome in Arena mode, so I think it's actually better in Constructed than it is in Arena mode, and it's not that great in Constructed. Booty Bay Bodyguard is awful because it only has 4 health for 5 mana. As a taunt, that just means it's going to die to 1 minion most times. So Noble Sacrifice versus Light's Justice. I would arguably say you go with the Noble Sacrifice to protect your 2-drops. Either are a fine pick. Neither are spectacular. I will take the Noble Sacrifice. Okay. Hungry Crab. Maybe slightly better in Arena just because people have random Murlocs that they sometimes draft. Murloc War Leader is not great because you shouldn't draft Murlocs. I'm just saying people sometimes do, but generally you should not draft Murlocs. Because it's so hard to get the synergy deck. And even if you did, Murlocs have never been that fantastic to begin with. But Faceless Manipulator allows you to copy basically anything you want, and that can mean you could copy a Dr. Boom. Well, that wouldn't be the best target, but like a Ragnaros. If you copy a Ragnaros, or a Boulder Fist Ogre, that's much more likely. Something of that nature, it's a pretty valuable card, so we need more late game too. We'll take Faceless Manipulator. Okay, Clockwork Giant. Really I've only seen that work in like Druid Mill decks or that kind of thing, where you can just force your opponent to have a billion cards. But I don't think that's actually going to fly in this deck. More than likely, that's going to end up being like an 8 mana, 8/8, which is okay, but not great. I think I'd rather have a second Enhancer Mechano. If you have the early board, or if you're able to consecrate and build things up, put some Chillwind Yetis down, and then put it Enhancer Mechano, the taunts, the Wind Furies, the Divine Shield is huge. It's like a win more, but win significantly more. Ensure your victory, almost like a win condition card. Aside from that, a Mech Whooper is actually not too bad of a choice because we do have 2 Enhancer Mechanos and also a Heal Bot. Also, what else do we have? We have a Micro Machine even, and an Explosive Sheep, but you wouldn't play Explosive Sheep with that. Compared to Avenge, I think we need... Do we need more 2-drops? Yeah, arguably. Yeah, I'll take Mech Whooper over Avenge. It's kind of justified because we do have mechs to put down with it, especially a turn 3 Enhanced Mechana. That would be nice. Okay, Earthen Ring Farseer, Darkscale Healer, or Stone Skin Gargoyle. Normally, I would probably lean Darkscale Healer here, but we really lack 3-drops, and 3 is an important turn. We have 2 3-drops. We want more than that. Earthen Ring Farseer is also targeted 3 health, so you can pick which target gets that HP, and normally you don't need the 2 HP restore on the Paladin either, so we'll take Earthen Ring Farseer, slightly above average. Okay, here, Rockjaw Trog, Cobalt Geomancer, or Unstable Ghoul. Cobalt Geomancer actually not out of the question because we do have 2 Consecrations. That would be a 6 mana, deal 3 damage to all enemy creatures, or all enemies rather, and then have a 2/2 on the board. Unstable Ghoul will not be the pick. It's iffy. It can also hurt your own stuff. Oh shit, I actually took it. Can I go back? Okay. Well, the pick there was, in my opinion, to take the Burly Rockjaw Trog. I misclicked. You don't take Unstable Ghoul, you take the Rockjaw Trog. My bad. Here, Ascension Shieldmaster, Blessing of Kings, or a Stone Skin Trog. Blessing of Kings and Stone and Shield Master are both pretty good. We do have plenty of minions, though. We're kind of lacking on spells. Blessing of Kings is hard to deal with in Arena frequently. We will take a Blessing of Kings. Muster for Battle. If I knew ahead of time I was going to have a Muster for Battle, I might have taken the Quartermaster. That said, is it still good? But is it better than Wild Pyromancer? In an Arena mode, where we have no way to buff up the minions, it's summon 3 1/1 minions, versus having extra ways to clear the board. And I think you go with extra ways to clear the board. It's actually a tough pick. Muster for Battle on its own is not bad, but Wild Pyromancer, when you already have double Consecration, double Equality, that's some real removal there. Yeah, we'll take that. Okay, another Muster for Battle. Yeah, wow. Okay, Violet Teacher, though, is alright if you have more spells. We don't have more spells, and I think we have plenty of 4 stuff anyway. Yeah, I'd say we do. Because we also have double Enhancer Mechano, I think we want more 3-drops so that we can play a 4-drop Enhancer Mechano. We will take the Muster for Battle. It's reasonable. Ooh, okay. Cobalt Guardian. If you had a mech deck, it might be more justified. It's not good, though, because it only has 3 HP. More than likely, you're not going to be able to give it a Divine Shield, and even if you could, is it really that big of a deal, because it only has 3 health? It's about as difficult to take out as a Scarlet Crusader. Well, that said, Scarlet Crusader can be hard to deal with, and if you do chain the Divine Shields, theoretically, it could be okay. But people don't even draft it and take it in Constructed. But a 3rd Equality, on the other hand, when you have cards like Muster for Battle, Wild Pyromancer, it's really hard to pass up on that one. I think you want more removal. Equality. Now, what we're missing is probably card draw. But since we have a ton of removal, that's okay. You can just kind of sit back and make hero power tokens. But these two are not very good. I do think maybe you go for the Novice Engineer, actually. Especially considering equality, you can use the Novice Engineer to trade if they ignore it. You can... Equality Unstable Ghoul. Not the worst thing. You already have two, though. I do think you want to get a little bit of card draw. Arguably. Unstable Ghoul, not out of the question either. Okay, last pick. A fourth Enhancer Mechano. Sadly, that might be correct. South Sea Captain for 3 mana that has nothing to buff. So a 3/3 for 3 or a... No, I think you take the South Sea Captain, actually. 3 Enhancer Mechanos is ridiculous. You could end up with having an Enhancer Mechanos in your hand, which is very weak on its own, I might add. Whereas we are lacking 3-drops. Under normal circumstances, when you didn't have Enhancer Mechano or that many 4-drops, I might say Enhancer Mechano. But given we are really lacking on 3-drop minions, a 3/3 is... it's fine. We'll take it. So, only thing I misclicked on was Unstable Ghoul. Should have probably been the Rockjaw Trog. I guess having the Unstable Ghoul isn't awful, and in the end, the decks probably play out about the same. Nah, the Rockjaw Trog would have been better. That said, this deck kinda too much centered in the 2/3/4 zone. But it will have an early game. Muster for Battle is alright. The thing that makes this deck good is that it has basically all the removal you could ever ask for. 2 Consecrations, 2 Wild Pyromancers, and 3 Equalities. That is a lot of removal. It's like the equivalent of being a mage with 4 Flame Strikes or something like that. Maybe slightly less good. Main problems with the deck, of course. Not too much of a late game, though that can be made up for with AoE. Or removal, rather. It only has 1 card draw card. Oh, no, it has 2. It has 2 Occult Master. My mistake, that actually makes it a little bit better than I thought. But yeah, the minions in this deck don't really have that much oomph. A lot of mediocre stuff. This will be a pretty slow deck to play. Though, that said, if you clear your opponent's stuff, you can basically whittle them down like Paladins have historically done with the X-Control Paladins before GVG and all this Muster for Battle Quartermaster crap. It was a lot more control. I think this deck is solid. I believe you would get around... my first thought was 6 wins, but because the AoE, the removal is top-notch in this deck, and AoE removal is a big deal, I would say 7 wins with this deck. Especially if you correctly chose Rockjaw Trog instead of the Unstable Ghoul. So, I've been Dark Skeleton. I hope you found this enlightening. If you have any comments, go ahead and leave them down below. If you want to send a message at me or let me know what you'd like to see next, maybe another tutorial, maybe a different game entirely, or just more Hearthstone content in general, you can find me at Twitter, at SupDarkSkeleton on Twitter. And I will see you all next time. Thank you for watching.